Babe, wake up. You've hit snooze on your Alarmo branded alarm clock 5 times, and now Nintendo has dispatched the team of Inkling hitmen to come kill you unless you get out of bed now. Folks,
They're not hit men, they're hit
they're
squids.
hit
Get that
squids.
right.
Yeah, the hit squids. The hit squids are coming for you. They're going to ink you to death unless you wake up now.
I
Man.
only emulated one game.
Yeah, but you did it in front of the Alarmo camera. That's your own fucking fault.
Dude, well, first off, hello, welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming podcast. We are here talking about our favorite news stories from the month of October. Bit of a slow month, but man, let's start it off with the fucking Alarmo. That shit is just hilarious to me. Like, I sent you guys somebody who like had to review it basically, and it just sounds like they're just being punished. Imagine having to like review a piece of tech that just like, again, that watches you.
Yeah.
It's monitoring you and literally like trying to like Pavlovian condition you to like, wake up and get out of bed, which, sure, some of us need that little extra push, but like,
So
Some of us wake up habitually 5 minutes before their alarm ever goes off.
it's very there's two things with this Alarmo thing. One, I believe it like sold out, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, it sold out in Japan. It sold out in the Nintendo of America stores physically. And then I think it opens for digital sale in America next year.
Hilarious. Okay. And then two, when I got my first cell phone, I downloaded the song Renegade by Styx as a ringtone. And I used that as my alarm. And
Yep.
it was my alarm for about a year. And
then you
after
can
that
never
year,
listen to it again.
I fucking hate that song.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I don't think this is a good idea
Yep.
to use like your favorite gaming sounds.
Yeah, but the thing
to
is,
wake
it's not
you.
your favorite game sounds. Are you just gonna sit here and say that you want to hear the Guardian theme from Breath of the
Nope.
Wild when you're waking up? That's anxiety inducing, not something that I sit there
but then when you wake up, you get the satisfying sounds of you defeating it. It's about punishment and reward. That's the whole thing. Like, literally, this
I
is
do
trying
think
to
it's-
condition you.
I do think
Also-
it's funny that people were so mind blown by this. It's like Nintendo's always been a toy company. Are you kidding me?
That's where they started. That's it.
Yeah.
That's where they started. But like, this
There,
is
there,
just a
there were
weird-
some comments where it's like, wow, I can't believe this is what they're selling us. It's like, dude, they sold you cardboard 4 years ago and you ate that shit up.
Oh yeah, the
Nintendo Labo.
the Labo. Yeah, jeez,
I don't
that shit
remember
was-
that.
It was a
I
bunch
mean,
of
you're-
cardboard cutouts that you would buy
forgiven.
and then
You're
fold
forgiven or
together.
not. That shit fucking failed.
You would fold them together and they would form things like a bike handlebars that you would then put your Switch into so you could tip it back and forth.
Yes, I do remember.
Or a
that.
fishing rod, or there was a robot. I think the robot was the most popular one and the one that was constantly sold out.
I mean, we have seen that Nintendo is like trying to like push more into or cross over the toy brand part of it to like the lifestyle brand thing as well.
Sleep Science has been the Nintendo thing for a little
Yeah.
bit now with Pokemon Sleep, which
And
apparently
brushing-
makes a lot of fucking money.
Isn't
Yeah.
there a brushing your teeth one? Isn't there one
Yes.
that like gets you
Yeah.
to brush your teeth too?
I
Which
mean,
is hilarious
good on
that-
Nintendo for acknowledging the fact that some of their fans need some life coaching.
Yeah.
Like,
And
where's
coincidentally-
Nintendo Shower?
And coincidentally, they just so happen to collect all of this information on your daily habits.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the thing that was like I texted.
That's going
I
to feed
texted
into
the
Switch
group.
2, and you're not going to be able to boot up a game if you didn't get 8 hours of sleep, didn't brush your teeth, and didn't
Yeah.
take a shower.
It's sort of
Literally-
the talking about Doritos to play Xbox. You have to brush your teeth to play Nintendo.
When are we getting the Japanese Jordan Peterson? From Nintendo. Just like you got to make your bed. You got to make your bed, or you can't.
Alarmo
play.
yells at you for not making your bed too.
I will stand on the business that climbing into, not like tucking your sheets in like hospital corner style, but pulling your sheets out and straightening them and then crawling into a straightened out bed at the end of the day, far more satisfying.
I mean, seeing as I only use a comforter anyways, I don't use
Yeah.
like actual sheets. I just
Same.
I just like I don't leave the thing just kind of sprawled out there from when I wake up. But like
See, I don't even get the benefit of like oh, I flipped out, flip my blankets over so I could get out and take a shower, and I'll come back downstairs and like make it afterwards. If I don't make it immediately, when I come downstairs, there is a minimum of 2 cats sleeping on the flipped out piece
And
that
then
I
it's
can no
there
longer
for
disturb.
Yeah,
yep.
you can't move that. But I texted the group like when they dropped the alarmo thing. I was like, somebody at Nintendo headquarters is in a control booth just jacking off to all the footage of people, doing various things in their beds.
I do think
And
it's funny that after all of the different like copyrights and patents that people had been flipping through, thinking this was going to be some sort of like Game Boy camera attachment for the Switch, or
oh
because
yeah,
of all
bring me back to that.
Mm.
just turned out to be an alarm clock. And there were some
I
people who were like, "Oh my god, is this what Switch 2 is supposed to be?" It's like, okay, you're too stupid to be on the internet for get off for a couple months.
I bought one exclusively to finish on when I jerk off, just right into the camera.
You see, it would be
You're
really
doing
funny if
doing
it
pub
played some like
tributes
romance
to your
music when you
favorite
were.
to your favorite franchise.
Yeah.
It plays the romancing music from Fire Emblem Three Houses.
The one, there's the price. It's $100, right? That's like pretty crazy for an alarm clock. That is,
It's actually not as crazy as you think for
but
a
like,
Wi-Fi enabled alarm
yeah,
clock.
yeah, but like it lacks a certain number of features. Like you can't set multiple alarms. The one that actually bothers me is the fact that it's, it looks like, your kind of cartoon stereotypical classic kind of alarm clock. It's, circular with the big button on top, but the
The
display
big button on
is
top was a bell, not a button, by the way.
but the well, there was always a button there as well to
The
Yes, but
snooze.
that's you would hit, but it was a bell. Like the big
well,
round part was a
that's what would make the noise, is it would shake, and the
yeah.
bells
And when you would
on the
hit
two
the top
sides.
of it, you were disengaging the rattler.
Yeah. So the screen is circular, but the actual display is square or slightly rectangular. So like you're getting black borders, which is just like,
Yeah.
that's just like weird. I
Crazy.
don't know why they couldn't do they couldn't do like the
Circular
whole.
screens are expensive.
I guess, yeah, but like I don't
Like
know.
no,
It's
that's
weird.
a real thing.
Why? I
Because
mean, just
you have to buy the display tech from the people who make the displays, and to get a circular one costs more upfront for them to create a pipeline for versus the same rectangular display that they make and sell for everything.
and it's just like the edges make it. The fact that a circle only has the one edge makes creating pixels difficult for it.
Circles actually have infinite edges, don't you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Okay, folks. Alarmo. Are you buying? Are you lining up? Are you one of the
I bought 12
sickos?
of them.
Are you scalping the Alarmo?
No. I'm keeping them in 12 different rooms so they can watch me at all times.
He's solving the multiple alarm issue.
Yeah, you got to have two of them. But yeah, the fucking there's multiple jumping off points here, but my joke about, yeah, somebody in Nintendo having a little fun with themselves over all the gathered data here.
I mean, they've been doing that in the Pokemon Company
I
apparently
was gonna
for
say, I was
fucking
gonna s-
years.
yeah, I was gonna say the data that we've uncovered, not we personally, we are not involved with this
We the people.
this criminal leak, because let's
The
start with
capital
that.
we.
Yeah, the royal we.
we.
Um, yeah, fucking. There's some goonin' be going on
Oh yeah.
at the Pokemon Company.
I mean, is
As
there ever a doubt that there's gooning going on when there's things like what's the psychic fairy Pokemon?
see when they're
Gardevoir,
when they're
Gardevoir, there we go. I
when there
knew
are
if I said the
breedable
typing, you'd
Vaporeon.
figure it out for me.
when there are submissive and breedable furry persona things
Yeah.
that they're making on a yearly basis. But Mike, as our resident, both our resident Pokemon and gooning expert, what?
Yeah, it's a perfect crossover.
It is. It truly is.
You see, if
what
Mike was a
happened?
Digimon fan, he'd be a real gooner because I mean, he'd be going off to Angelamon.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna start off just with Game Freak's statement that they released. Okay. So It obviously was in Japanese, so here's the
Otashi wa Weeaboo.
I will get the translation, and it is very short. Due to unauthorized access to our servers in August 2024, personal information on our employees was leaked. We apologize to those affected. There's leaked personal information, names, company email addresses, over 2,500
They used
people.
some of that personal information to access the actual Nintendo database as well.
Yeah, exactly.
My understanding is correct.
Yeah, so I'll get there. So, there's 3 points in their response that says what was leaked, just referencing all personal information about the employees, that they've contacted the employees individually and are taking preventative measures to stop this from happening again.
By contacting the employees affected, there's probably going to be like finding the employee who got phished or whatever,
and then putting them in an execution squad.
I have definitely worked at a company who had an employee do that and infect the entire network with a virus. So
to Matt's point, there's nothing in here about the data, the actual game data and Nintendo server information that leaked. They link it all to the employees, so they're completely silent. They haven't released any statement on the data other than the personal employee data that was leaked.
I think that makes sense, though. Before you go on, I always want to say that's an interesting point, but like in terms of like both PR and kind of corporate responsibility, like that is the appropriate.
Yeah, the people are far more valuable than the data 100%. There. And also, you don't want to necessarily come out and be like, yeah, so we totally have data on what Typhlosion does with his female trainers.
Well, so I mean, Ben, I think you make a good point, Ben. I'm just surprised that there was like no even slight mention of like other types of data that was leaked. It's just straight. It was employee data, personal information of the employees. That's what was leaked.
At most, you're going to get something like that. We can neither confirm nor deny the existence of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I mean,
XXX,
just to
be more precise.
Along with employee data, there may have been some, unconfirmed, game data or something like that. It was just like a recognition, even generally, that I was surprised that they didn't include that. Obviously they're not going to be like, hey, we had employees that were creating lore on Pokemon, and some of them weren't great.
So this is where Nintendo differs very greatly from Sega. Whereas Nintendo's like, we're gonna hide from our employee written fan fiction. Sega would be like, yo, that Rogue? Sonic X Shadow hentai that was found on our database, that's official.
Yeah.
Shadow dropping that now.
Confirmed.
Yeah. Rogue getting gangbanged by all the characters,
getting Eiffel Towered by Big the cat and Dr. Egg.
No, no, don't do that to Big. Leave Simple Big out of this.
So getting
Big just wants to save Froggy.
So getting into the juicy stuff. What was interesting about the leaks was not the personal data of the employees, but the lore
that's
dumps.
Probably the more interesting bit to the people who actually did the hacking.
Sure. Yeah. But for the purposes of our pod, the more interesting bit is the lore dumps and the game leaks. So I'm going to continue pushing off the fun stuff, and we'll start with the game leaks. So there's
I like how you say that the fun stuff is the stuff you're pushing off, where the game leaks should be the fun stuff.
the funny stuff.
Dude, I'm a lore head at my heart, so no.
Oh, you're interested in the lore of Pokemon, huh?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Four straight months of Pokemon lore next year.
All right, so we know that Pokemon's Game Freak's releasing another Legends game. This time it's going to be a black and white. It's called Legends Z to A. And so supposedly there's a PC version out there that
but that's not actually that crazy.
Okay.
That's just normal development stuff. There's a PC version of every game that Nintendo
Yeah,
makes.
it's not that there's a necessarily that there's a PC version, but this guy got his hands on the PC version, and has played the whole thing. He is not releasing it and hasn't said much about the game itself and what's in it. Just that he really enjoyed it despite the lag and like the choppiness in it, just because of the hacked version he was playing on. So that is interesting to me. I've been waiting for Z to A to come out. I really enjoyed Legends Arceus. Excited to see this one. Now to the fun stuff.
Wait, is Legends Arceus? That's the Souls-like version of
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Shut up.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'll leave the podcast right now.
Hey,
So
I mean, it's just a good
pointing,
way to
pointing a gun
identify
at
it.
you. Pointing a gun.
Yeah.
It has a dodge roll. It is a Souls-like.
That was just for you too.
there are boss fights.
Yeah, so
It's on the leave button.
I can do it. It is the one that I played.
Yeah, it's
for
another version of that. He's confirmed some of like the fun features that people enjoyed of that, namely the shiny sound when you have a shiny Pokemon.
Matt, put the rope down. It's okay.
Oh no, he's kicking the chair.
Yeah, so he's currently off screen. All we now see is his feet floating in the air.
But so yeah, and related to these legends stories, which are supposed to be kind of like prequel type games that give you some lore background on some of the legendaries, and in Legends Arceus, it's part of the creation myth. There was a leaked creation myth in this Pokemon dump. So the creation myth is not the fun one. We're still holding on to that one. I'm not gonna read it, but it ties in all of the kind of the different legendary Pokemon, like Dialga and Palkia, Arceus, links them with Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, of like creating the sky,
yes,
the
I'm
earth,
nodding sagely. I know all these names.
the water. Dialga and Palkia are time and space, so it's just like kind of putting those together. You should know those names because those
I
are
do
from
recognize a few of them. Yeah.
yeah, come on. Those are Gen 3, Sapphire and Ruby, one of the greatest games. Diamond and Pearl, another good one. But so now to the fun stuff, what we've all been waiting for, the gooning. I'm happy to say I've been a Fraligator man, since the beginning. Fraligator is dope.
They call those scalies, not furries.
Fraligator is the far superior starter Pokemon. Totodile is cute as fuck. And we now have some information on Typhlosion. He is wanted for for sexual assault and rape. He is currently on the run. He does have the ability to turn into a ghost type Pokemon. So
I didn't know he was a fucking shapeshifter demon. Apparently,
yeah, me either. So yeah, Typhlosion is a shapeshifter demon. The lore that was fun about him that was dumped was that there was a Typhlosion back in the day that had sexual relations with a woman. Very like Zeus-like, changing his form to have these sexual relations.
Except in the reverse. So
Yeah.
which can you say is which is more based, right? In Greek myth, it's that the anthropomorphic godhead turns into an animal to have sex with a woman or a young boy.
Yeah.
Depends.
Or the Typhlosion changing from a monster.
As I say, it's the reverse. He's turning from the animal to a human to do more trickery.
I just want to say that the implications that like at one time Pokemon were more like these kind of conscious beings, we'll say, is really off-putting for what their future holds as just like,
well,
fighting toys for people.
It's like there's like the meme of like it's the disappointed dad where it's just like you've caught all these Pokemon. It's like that one's just a man. As
Yeah.
he's got them all in his, like, it's the femboy son has got them all in his bed. It's
Yeah.
like, that one's just a man.
So two things I'll say. Yeah, Andrew, good point. They were, and it's supposed to be like, yeah, they were more spiritual beings, back in the day, and then humans have, destroyed them and fucking
Yeah,
like
By literally fucking them, they have degenerated their status, and now they are like non-sentient animal creatures
yeah,
who
that
do our
that
bidding.
go into balls.
Yeah, they live in the balls and they do blood sport for our entertainment.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's poetic. It's capitalism. It's fantastic.
Ugh.
But so
Except there's
what's
free
interesting?
healthcare. There's still free
Yeah.
healthcare.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's not American capitalism. It's got some social.
Social safety net.
Yeah.
There is a social safety
Hey,
net.
yeah. But
I mean,
so
it's more or less just a social safety net for the Pokemon so that you can keep fighting them.
Well, I'm
yeah,
sure
We
Yu-Gi-Oh
never see
too.
people really going to the
I'm sure you
hospital and
could.
getting
I'm sure
fixed
you
up.
could go there.
In the
and
anime, we do. Nurse Joy helps out Ash sometimes when he's beat up, um, and then Brock just has a boner all the time. That's why his eyes, he can't open them because there's no blood going to his eyelids. So it's all elsewhere. His body's just absorbing it from
Pretty
places
sure
that
it's
he
just
doesn't need.
representation of the true Polynesian culture.
But okay, so back to Typhlosion. What
Do
was
not endorse. Do not endorse.
Yeah, don't endorse. I have two things I want to say about it. One, I want to finish the story, how it ends, but first I want to say that I saw some defenses of this, not in like,
interesting. Say
yeah,
more.
not in like it's okay that
You got to be
Typhlosion
careful here
was,
because
yeah,
you're
I'm
basically implicating the fandom that you were a massive part of.
so
This is
not
like when
that
the Smash community shit went down. It's like, oh, I have to stop talking about playing Smash.
yeah. So no defense of like that there's bestiality going on in rape, but that it is a traditional Japanese story that they're aping and like trying to incorporate into their own lore. So
And they've done
apparently,
that with a shitload of Pokemon.
yeah, exactly. This just happens to be one that, hit the chopping block because of exactly what it was. And there's really no way to kind of tone
there
it
is
down.
maybe an interesting point to be made here that, like, the backlash, however, well suited, is potentially colored by some Eastern, anti-Asian racism. And
Yep.
like we made the joke before that, like, the ideas of the transformation and
Through all
into
cultures.
animals exist in Western culture as well, in like Greek media. And there's no, like, that from my mind, there's no direct comparison to make to be like, oh yeah, look how they critique the Japanese one but not the Western one. I think we can all say that for modern sensibilities, it's all bad and
Yes.
it's
a
all
hundred
gross.
percent. I mean,
I don't know.
the
When
fence is
Naruto uses
this is
his
not
most powerful
defending either
technique,
of
yeah.
them.
No, it's
no,
not defending necessarily the content of the story, but that just like this is a
I don't.
traditional, like they're just transposing the Pokemon onto a different Japanese myth that has to do with like outsiders, coming together in the this like monstrous outsider that kind of like takes on these human outsiders that were like cast out. And then at the end of this story in the Pokemon lore, like the Typhlosion either gets killed or dies, and the woman in the Typhlosion half-breed child, fucking mongoloid, wear his fur as like a cape, and that there's that in particular of like wearing the cape of your dead otherized like savior was like particular, like some particular story in Japanese culture, that not like a very popular one, but the that myth itself had has a tradition in the Japanese culture. That kind of storyline
Sounds
in
a lot like
general,
Macbeth to me.
that storyline in general, as to Ben's point, is a cross-cultural story, however bad it is, and bad and gross it is, across all tons of cultures there's some sort of similar story. So yes, getting released through a leak in a property created in the 20th century, and into the 21st century, yeah, it's fucking gross and disgusting and weird that these Japanese dudes that work in a box at fucking Game Freak were probably gooning to the idea of fucking Pokemon, through this story. And
Like,
just
I can make this one like actually a bit of a myth, so that way when I'm
yeah,
masturbating to my anthropomorphized Vaporeon, I don't feel so bad.
yes, exactly. So like it's gross in all those senses, but like it is an interesting uh literary device of
Clip that.
using those
Mike
myths.
finds it interesting.
I mean,
No,
hell,
it
I
just
find it interesting too. It doesn't mean you have to like it.
yeah, it's fucking hilarious. So I
It's
find
very
it
funny.
interesting for that. But it's just like, again, as like a literary like media thing of putting this Pokemon property and mixing it as they've done throughout their whole tenure as fucking
Essentially, all of the
biggest
ghost
thing.
types mirror some form of Japanese mythos.
Yeah, Gyarados as like a dragon, the evolution
I
of
think it's
Magikarp to
Drifloon. That's the
Gyarados,
ghost balloon one.
Drifloom, yeah.
Yeah, that steals the souls of children that
Yep.
grab its strings.
So, same with Hypno. Oh, hold on. Actually, I'm gonna. This shit's been going on for a while because some of the best content out there is reading the Pokédex entries for
Yeah, but
Pokemon,
we know for a
especially.
fact that Pokemon fans can't read.
No, that's
That's why they
Yu-Gi-Oh
just
fans.
mash the A button through all of the
No,
dialogue.
that's Yu-Gi-Oh fans. Pokemon fans read. They don't read a lot, but it's small text. They'll read the fucking Pokédex entries. So a lot of the Pokédex entries,
And they
especially
won't read
from
dialogue because that's
yeah,
simulating human interaction.
yeah,
They will
they don't do that.
they will read the scientific breakdown of Pokemon genus and phenotype and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
exactly.
Pokemon eugenics?
Yeah,
Yes.
they'll do race science
Um,
on their made up little creatures. Yeah.
but especially first, second, and even until like third gen, but first and second gen specifically have some crazy Pokedex entries. Like Hypno steals children, like he hypnotizes them and then fucking like takes them away. I think Abra like teleports children. Like there's a lot of like weird, kind of creepy stuff going on in those entries. So this has been a through
What
line
is he
What you're
since.
doing with that
saying
spoon?
is
Where is that spoon going?
Hey, Abra doesn't have a spoon yet.
Is it
what
Kadabra?
you're saying is that the conservative panic of the 90s was correct and that they should have
Correct.
outlawed Pokemon from the get-go.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can find the Hypno one just because it's funny as fuck.
I'm just gonna say I think in the at least in the Western tradition, those boys and women are usually being taught a valuable lesson. So
I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's meant to be a morality tale here. I have been looking a little bit about the inspiration for from the actual Japanese myth, and yeah,
yeah.
it is supposed to be teaching
Yeah, it's no different than the tales of the Baba Yaga or various boogeymen throughout. It's bad children get taken away for not eating their vegetables.
No, but this is
Like
different
about
than
exclusion, isn't it?
yes, that's
Doesn't
what I'm
it?
saying.
It's
Otherized.
like
It was
yeah,
like
it's
people that were otherized.
yeah.
And like Typhlosion was like cast out or whatever, living in the
I mean,
forest.
he deserves it from what it sounds like.
No,
So
this is all prior to the
yes,
bestiality.
stripping away our modern context and values. Yes, that's what it's about.
So like in that sense, again, very interesting. Again, the content and how the story is delivered of a fucking Pokemon, you know, creating.
Tricking a woman into sleeping with him and
Yeah,
creating a
I
half
want to
breed
know.
mongrel child.
Yeah, I want to know did Typhlosion speak?
Whom amongst us? I mean, come on.
or was he just grunting the
Was he
whole
just
time
it's a mute, and just
and like
just pointing at it?
that's all I got.
Yeah, so
There's
Pokemon.
no great transition out of that.
Well, I got one. I got one to say. Pokemon and Nintendo, they are not trend chasing here. They are trailblazing by trying
go.
to, the only trends they're chasing, yes, are ancient myth, but they
Yeah,
are,
yeah, returning to tradition.
they are trying to, blaze a trail for, bringing Japanese culture and myth into a modern context.
Mhm.
But yeah, say
We just do that
they
with anime now. It's way better.
so they are, kind of the lone voice in the industry that are willing to experiment and take risks,
Yep.
right? Everybody else is just stuck with the trend chasing, which leads us to our next.
I do think it's a little
subject of
funny to
discussion.
say that the Pokemon franchise is quote unquote taking risks.
Behind the scenes risk. It's
Yeah.
just you just don't hear about it. Okay.
Or see it because the games tend to be the same year over year over year over year.
Hey, Legends are they're
Hey
mixing
man,
them
they
up.
added a dodge roll mechanic, so it's a new game.
Yeah.
But this is good. Speaking of chasing trends and not really understanding where to go with the industry, there was a couple news stories that made me kind of think about how Xbox and Sony have really they've kind of fucked it on this console generation and maybe even a couple years before this console generation. And I kind of want to frame it and interested in hearing the rest of your thoughts as like this console generation is the trend chasing generation.
Mm-hmm.
And it is worse off for the industry. It's worse off for the gamers, and it's impacted the financials of these businesses in a little bit of a, at least what seems to be negative way over the last, essentially since the pandemic. The pandemic provided this big boost that everyone was riding, but in what they had already started executing over that time frame, we now have this industry where gamers aren't happy, Xbox and Sony aren't happy, developers aren't happy, designers aren't happy, no one's happy. And I think that's
I personally live for gamers not being happy because I don't think they deserve to be happy.
Yeah, most of them don't deserve happiness.
I mean, totally fair, but I do think that is all a product of this trend chasing. And I think there's a couple stories that we saw over the last month that kind of highlight this. One, two are Xbox related, which is the fact that there was this whole controversy around Xbox going to leave the Saudi Arabia market. And
it's not just Saudi Arabia; it's the whole MENA region. Yeah. It's Middle East.
Oh, is
Saudi Arabia is just the focal point because
it's
essentially
one.
the only place they sell in the Middle East.
Okay,
it's
and
the big
only place they sell in is like they sell maybe a couple thousand consoles.
Okay, so fair enough. So the Middle East region and Xbox, yeah. I found Xbox's response to be very telling, which was that they said their ability to access Xbox games and play them will never be removed. But they didn't really say that they're going to continue selling consoles there.
Oh no, you got to know how to read PR speak when you're reading, especially anything coming out of the Xbox portion right now.
Right. And this is a really, what we've, and that, that fits what we've seen from them, which is that they are now pushing not a console, but
every screen is an Xbox
service. It is the Game Pass service that is Xbox's core strategy.
Game Pass, xCloud, every screen that can play a game that they poured over is now an Xbox because you're playing a Microsoft Game Studios title.
Right. And that is them chasing the trend of what they saw in streaming services for other media. Mm-hmm. And it was a decision to try and capture the market early with low prices so that they could then jack them up and make a shit ton at the end, which is what
economy.
Right, which
everything.
is what
Uber, Grubhub, it's capitalism now.
Right. It's they were chasing that trend, but in doing so, they have completely fucked themselves because now they don't have people that want to be on their platform to the point where they're soliciting, asking developers, what can we do to make you make games that play on the Xbox like the Xbox system itself?
Yeah,
And so
they've also created a
question,
culture of people who just don't want to buy games anymore. If you go and anytime there's an announcement for a game coming to Xbox, and you go look at the comment sections of whatever platform you're looking at, you will always find one of the top comments being, when's it coming to Game Pass?
yeah.
It's never, I want to buy this game to support a company. It's when is it going to go onto the streaming service that I pay for?
Yeah, and that's what they want to see. Ben, what were you saying about the
so
survey?
like the actual question of the survey was, why are they avoiding our content?
Yeah, why
are you avoiding
why are you avoiding? And I think
it only took them 2 years of missing out on the theoretical top selling game of the year.
Yeah,
for them to be like, okay, maybe we're the problem, or maybe you're the problem.
But I think that speaks to how they've really screwed themselves in making this decision to trace the platform trend and not focus on the importance of a console, which is really what keeps people in your ecosystem. And that's why Sony, at the very least, has won for now with keeping people focused on their console system.
I mean, Nintendo's really the one who's won here more than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean,
because whenever you see a
Nintendo's its
about
own
like
thing. I really don't think they're comparable.
You got to look
anymore.
at it from the perspective. Whenever someone brings up like, what do you buy to play games on? You'll always see the argument of, well, you should buy a PC because the PC gives you everything and a Switch.
Right.
Or you should buy a PS5 and a Switch.
Right.
It's always the additional.
For sure. And that's good for Nintendo, but like just from our main console gaming companies, the two main ones, in my opinion, Nintendo's its own thing. 100%. I know that's a big one, but it's Xbox and Sony.
Like 144 million consoles or whatever they've sold.
Yeah, and Xbox has abandoned its console, and that has been to the deleterious effects of their earnings, their ability to sell games, their ability to bring games to their platform without acquiring those studios, which is what they've had to do essentially by force over the last couple of years we've seen, and that's not been successful.
There was a little bit of the hope initially being that when they bought those studios that it was going to push console sales.
Yeah, no, I think so.
And after a couple years of console sales not being bumped, especially when Starfield, the big, this is our drop, we're giving it, this is why you should buy an Xbox. And when Starfield didn't bump sales, I think that's when Microsoft, not Xbox, Microsoft got scared.
Sure, but that's where they had already gone wrong, because they had already made Game Pass a larger thing that you don't need an Xbox to access. And that's just it's created they put themselves in a box, in my opinion. Like, I don't really see how they grow Game Pass
there's some really funny
base. Well,
too,
they're not going to sell
Game Pass.
Yeah, go ahead.
Being Game Pass on console getting nerfed as hard as it has been compared to Game Pass on PC continuing to maintain its day one releases, no major price jump.
Yeah, they're pushing people.
They're clearly showing who they view as the first and second class.
Like look at this, right? Like, you can pay $12 to go play the new Call of Duty for like a month, play the campaign, or you can do that on PC, or you pay $20 and do it on console, or $70 to buy it outright. So where are people going to go if you have all those hardware choices? Where are they going to go? They're not going to buy the console. So you're not going to be even incentivized to buy a console, right? In that sense.
And that is an issue to me, because while I am a Sony pony, I think competition in the console space is important. And I think if Sony's really the only option from a console perspective, we risk getting a much worse product than we would have had they had to compete with Xbox on a real level. Which
we're kind of seeing that a little bit in the sense that there has been no competition for Sony essentially for a decade now.
Right.
Because the Xbox One launch was roughly 2013, I think end of 2013. And they have essentially tripped and fallen over themselves every year since.
Right. While Sony's had and then Sony, on the other hand, and this is where their trend chasing comes into account, is trend chasing with their game development. And they have hurt themselves by chasing what is the, free to play, constantly running live service game trend. And we saw their recent failures with Concord, and we continue to see them try to do things that just do not work. Those games continue to see failing rates. They aren't making money. They're more expensive than we think because Genshin Impact, this reporting said that it cost $100 million to develop and then $200 million to keep it and maintain it over the next year. So these aren't just cheap things that they can make. And on top of that, gamers.
I don't want to jump in there for a second, but
Go
that's
ahead.
Genshin Impact being produced in China. So that's Chinese production rates.
Right. So it's
now prorate
even
that
cheaper.
to other countries.
Right. Even cheaper than it would be elsewhere. But on top of that, Sony is chasing trends that no one's even really asking for anymore. And we've seen that with a report from, let me get the name right, I believe it was Media Research, showing that single player games are now really where the market is being left out to dry. And there's an opportunity for these companies to step in, but instead they're chasing these, live service games that aren't being successful. So
life service is the next evolution.
Life service is the next evolution. So all of this is to say, I think Sony's better positioned because their trend chasing has only fucked up their game development. They can make that pivot back to focusing more on single player, not chasing these live service games, letting them happen more organically. Those players are hard to capture. No one wants to leave a game they've invested years in, but they will take a couple hours.
The unhealthy nature of them is that they're entirely designed to eat your life away, be the only thing you play because you don't want to miss out on this event. You don't want to miss out on this event. Oh my God, I missed out on that battle pass. Now I'll never get the Peter Griffin skin.
Sure, but that's a separate discussion. How am I
supposed to play as Thanos?
I totally agree, but that's a separate discussion. I'm not even talking about how these games are bad. I'm talking about from the fact that you aren't going to make a live service game that will capture enough of the people that want to play that type of game and make them leave where they've invested all of their time and money already. So you are more likely.
The interview, I think he did a couple interviews, but Sean Layton, the former, Sony exec who was part of the PlayStation team for decades.
I think I know what you're talking about.
He's saying similar stuff, how basically it's once you have you put the number at 6 live service games, the market's flooded.
It's saturated.
There's no more room. People are not. It is such a hard task to try to get people to move themselves from the place. The one or maybe two that they have put so much time and effort into, that these things, these type of games demand so much of your time, that as popular as the big ones are and as profitable as they are, it's just it's next to impossible to get people to move to a new one, to abandon that.
It's already Jover. So that's why, and I'm hoping Sony realizes this. The strategy going forward,
shitload of their live service games.
Right. We've seen.
I would say they didn't cancel. They have postponed or delayed 6.
No, I'm pretty sure Naughty Dog's game was canceled.
That one was canceled.
Some of them have been, but their official thing is that they're
most of them are delayed.
Are in
I know that internally they're bullish on the Horizon game still having a market.
Yeah.
Let's see how the Lego one does.
Yeah, but fingers crossed. What this means is that we will start getting some more single player, maybe smaller, slightly cheaper budget AAA games, because that's where you have a chance of actually getting someone who loves these live service games to go play that for an hour or two during a week. That's where you can get the other gamers who don't play live service games because they don't have the time to keep up with that sort of thing. That's where they're going to migrate anyways, and we see that in the statistics. So yeah, all that to say, trend chasing has fucked the industry for the time being. There is a bright side. Xbox is screwed, in my opinion. End of my rant.
I do think in a little bit that some of the Xbox being screwed is like there's so much of it that they've done to themselves that makes it impossible to ignore. Like the
Yeah,
idea that I just saw recently that the Series X finally surpassed 51% of Xbox sales and is now
yeah.
the lead console that they've sold,
Are you saying
which
in
is
their history or like just over the
no,
S?
just of this generation.
Yeah.
For this generation, for a long portion of time, the Series S was the dominant console of the two, making up something like 62% of sales. And that was partially because the Series S was the more available console during chip shortages. It's the cheaper console, so when Christmas comes around and Grandma's buying little Timmy, his Fortnite machine, she buys him the new Xbox and gets the $300 one instead of the $500 one. But then they go out and they create a a 1 terabyte version because the Series S comes in 500 gigabyte. They make a 1 terabyte version of the Series S that they sell for $50 more. They make a 2 terabyte version of the Series X that they sell for $100 more base price. And then they make a digital version with no disc slot of the Series X that they sell for $50 less than the base Series X. So they've created this weird platform of like almost too much choice in their console realm where they're spreading themselves so thin with three digital onlys, two with disk drive. I think it was Xbox as a platform is like 25 or 30% physical sales to 70% digital, compared to I think Sony was closer to 50% and Nintendo was gooning ahead at like 70% physical sales.
Well, and not to mention the Xbox just isn't selling because they don't care. They don't want to sell it, and
Well, I
they want to
mean,
sell Game Pass.
at a certain point, when you start to realize that all of the theoretical future games that you might want to buy on Xbox are coming to PlayStation,
Right.
you might want to start just building a catalog on PlayStation rather than investing yourself into an ecosystem that will probably be dead in the next 10 years.
Well, that's the thing. It's like Xbox is trying to get people on their platform while making it so that their platform isn't necessary even to their in-house studios. Like it's I don't know. I don't see how Xbox consoles
There
are
was a
still a
joke
thing.
back in the early 2000s that Xbox and Microsoft really stepped in to kind of like take Sega's banner and be the new Sega, be the third console to the Nintendo and PlayStation race that, when the Dreamcast died, there was a lot of Sega titles that went over to Xbox and were playing there as their primary platform. And now you've gotten to the point where it's like, oh, maybe they were the Sega of this generation because they're starting to have the exact same issues of dwindling sales, hard to recoup costs.
Yeah, I mean, we've said kind of similar observations before, how
Mhm.
that they will still, I think, continue to build up their development teams, and they will essentially be satisfied with just becoming a publisher like Sega.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They'll do stuff like
I mean, it was a
maybe
good
like
decision for Sega. Sega makes great games, and
yeah,
now they don't have to worry about
and
hardware
they'll
because
do things like they'll make like hardware accessories, like they'll still sell the controllers because people will be like, here, use this as your
For the
PC
PC
gaming controller.
or for
yeah,
your streaming on your
Yeah, here for your
Google
phone,
stick
for your phone thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
or
your
whatever.
Google
Yeah,
streaming stick, whatever the
yeah,
fuck they called it.
yeah.
I think this is an interesting going back to Andrew's first point about like price gouging, and I was mentioning the platform economy. This shift is not like this shift that Xbox is going to have to undergo, similar to like Sega going just publishing, or we foresee Xbox path or potential path in that area. The music industry is going undergoing a similar change where record deals and under record labels aren't a thing anymore. They don't care about actually producing the music. They're completely changing over to a distribution model. So they're recouping the same royalties pretty much. They don't have to put out the same amount of upfront costs to then be recouped on the back end because they're letting the artists just make the the music, produce it, record it themselves. You come to the label with a finished product and they just distribute it. So it's kind of a similar shift in that the instead of making the games, making the consoles, putting all that in, it's
I mean,
just
part of
okay,
that is
here's the
also in the music
software.
industry, you've gained better access to at-home recording and ability.
Exactly.
Whereas in the 70s
100%.
and 80s, you're not going to be sitting in your fucking basement recording,
You're
onto, I don't know, record.
Yeah, I mean you're 1,000% right that like part of the reason is the technology. And part of the reason here is the technology as well. Like they can't compete Xbox by putting out like good actual hardware. So instead, let's just put it out to something that everyone has, a fucking streaming stick. Like we'll just distribute your games that you third party makes. Don't worry, we don't give a shit about the hardware because someone else is making the hardware. We just need to be able to put our streaming software on it. And then we'll distribute, you'll get your game in front of fucking everybody.
Pretty sure that they've killed their streaming stick idea, or at least they've ceased development on it because they couldn't find a price point that was going to work, which is why they've shifted more straight towards Samsung TVs and LG TVs, I think.
Yep.
Can come natively now with the Xbox Game Pass app on them.
Well, they were putting it out to the whatever the Google stick was. That was one of the spots they had it.
Chromecast is dead.
Chromecast. Oh, that's dead. Okay, but
that's another Google graveyard addition to this year.
But the point still stands that they're just distributing it out to on third party platforms rather than their own consoles. So it's just interesting to me as like a critique of capitalism and how you could as the bigger company continue to push off the production costs and the labor and the innovation to the third parties, and then you just are stagnant in your own development ideas and continue to just fucking reap the benefits from other people's work, and you continue to just become a shittier and shittier company again in your own production and innovation because you want to cut costs. That was my rant.
Yeah. All right.
Cut costs have affected, multiple points now where you're getting games that end up releasing in a state that isn't finished because they just need to get it out there and start making money off of it, with the hope being that if you generate enough money off of the incomplete release, you might be able to fund it enough to finish it.
That's that. Before we get into the meat of the article, it is an actual kind of through point, right? It's something that I kind of wanted to bring up with Andrew's part of like, the problem with trend chasing is this is again points that we've made in the past that is the real problem with that is the current state of development, right? Is the fact that AAA development takes so fucking long. And that leads into this whole thing here, right? Is like that game development is so tumultuous and kind of precarious that they have to say chasing trends doesn't work. I mean, it's the only hope of trying to recoup some of this long cost, but it's a losing game. Because by the time it comes out the trend is gone. But like they've got to keep that shit going in the meantime, and that's basically putting out early access games that aren't actually early access. Yeah, sorry, man.
No, I was just trying to find a through point to transition to my article with the discussion around how players are no longer willing to necessarily tolerate, would probably be the right term, tolerate releases in an incomplete state and just hope that they'll be fixed in the future. This is a discussion with Paradox Games over the lackluster response to City Skylines 2.
Lackluster. Interesting word choice there. Dude, people were fucking pissed. People were
the game
fucking
runs like
pissed.
ass.
It was dog shit. It like literally ran at like sub like 20 FPS. It was a literal
It's never a good
slideshow.
thing when your game ends up being used as a benchmark tool for computers.
Yeah, jeez.
Because like
in a
that was
bad way.
Cyberpunk when it initially released. That was the benchmarking tool. Now City Skylines 2 is the de facto benchmarking tool for, is your computer strong enough to run this game at 30 FPS?
Yeah, these were like the highest of high-end rigs could like not hit a reasonable frame rate. It was insane. But like this whole article is part of like kind of like my jonkler moment. Just like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, of course players should be accepting of unfinished games. Like, what? It's like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
some
It's like,
companies
how is
at
this a
least have the
revelation to you?
some companies at least have the audacity to be like, oh no, it's early access. You're paying us to buy this game early access, and that's why it's shit.
Should surprise. Restaurant goers don't like when their chicken comes out raw.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
Actually, there are some people who particularly enjoy their chicken tendies raw.
Ugh.
They're going to be superhumans in the next like 20 years.
Just like, yeah,
But-
grow like, you know, internal gut biome that's resistant to salmonella.
Yeah. Their idea essentially behind this article was that because people are so much tighter with their wallets right now and so much harder pressed with money, that they're not going to spend their money on an incomplete game and then hope it's fixed in the future. I think a little bit of that is like, yeah, well, everyone's struggling a little bit. Of course, that makes sense. But at the same time, like, even if you're not struggling, why would you waste your money on something that isn't done yet when I can wait a year, buy it after it's been patched 17 times, and get it for $20?
Yeah, at a discount.
Yeah, Matt's the enlightened patient gamer.
I mean, not always. I definitely have bought plenty of things on release that I don't touch for 3 years.
Right. Yeah. But
Matt
will buy them at full cost and then be patient to play them. Yeah.
And like a little bit of that is like, I definitely want to be, supporting a studio that I think should continue to make games and, give them their full cost. I'm not going to pay full cost for an Ubisoft game. I was pissed when I got shipped an Ubisoft game by accident that I paid full cost for a different game. Because that's one of those, like, why would I pay money for Star Wars Outlaws? That'll be fucking $15 a year from now with all DLC and patches included.
Not even. You're talking like 6 months.
Yeah.
At most, they love discounting their games, which, cool, good for them, good for us.
I mean, part of that is that they're just trying to juice numbers at a certain point. Be like, oh, look how many players our game has. It's like, how many of them bought it at $70? How many of them bought it at $40? How many of them bought it at $20? How many of them got a free Ubisoft Connect 1 week trial where they tried out your shitty Assassin's Creed game?
But yeah, again, to me, this whole article is just like, and I also think that the interviewer was also on this wavelength. It's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is fucking obvious shit. Like, of course, like,
I mean, when you're high on your own shit, you're never going to notice necessarily the obvious reality of a situation.
Well, here's the thing. Paradox is I don't know that they do in-house development. I think they're just a publisher, right? I don't know that they are actually doing development. They are just the publisher of these games. Because I know they didn't like they're not the developers of City Skylines. It's another studio. But like but here's the one that really loved.
Colossal Order is the developer.
Right. So here's one that I loved, but I want to make sure I'm getting the whole thing. Well, it's them talking about like how wanting to get more player input. So beta tests and stuff like that. So we do use these tools and we've used them in the past, but maybe we've gotten a little worse at it lately. We need to get back to that sort of openness with players. This sounds to me a bit like Paradox are trying to outsource some of their testing to players. Couldn't Paradox improve the technical robustness of their games by expanding their in-house testing and QA team? I asked. And it's just like, yeah, we talk about that a lot, how how in
Yeah.
general we're not particularly big fans of things like early access for that reason. I will say that this guy makes a pretty good point where he does say that, yeah, like QA is good for finding specific bugs, but like they want basically
No,
they're
no,
looking
no,
for
no
focus
QA
groups.
tester. You could have infinite QA testers, and you'll never find the crazy bug that it'll happen when you give it to an actual person.
Yeah,
Because
they're
your actual people are the stupid people who are like, oh, what happens if I jump on this?
yeah, no one
What
knows how to
happens if
break your
I
game better
hold
than
this
the
weapon,
player.
jump off this edge, and fire it simultaneously at the same time as I hit the jump command? You know
But
that
like
like that's the thousand monkeys in the keyboard parable. Is that the proper term for that?
sure. The, so like he's like this guy from Paradox is like talking about how basically like they want more like basically focus group kind of testing, like they're looking at more mechanics and stuff like that, but that doesn't talk about, again, it's like how like they should be able to know that the game is in an unplayable state, right? Like, say if we're taking this specific example of City Skylines, they should know, and they basically admit that they did know that it performed like absolute ass and like was basically unplayable. Like they're like, we're confident pretty much that the gameplay for these games, and like they the other part of this article was how they've delayed the Prison Architect too, and they're like, we think mechanically the game is good. We think that's good, but we don't think it's polished or whatever. So, and after learning,
You see, we had our dual
that players actually
4090
care about that.
quad CPU supercomputer trying to run
Yeah.
it, and it died. So
No, that's
there's a little throughput here where I don't know if you read the article that was sent regarding the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster technical development.
Mhm.
I sent it a couple days ago. Where one of the things that they ended up doing was they basically took 30 PS5 dev kits and turned them into like a super PS5 that can super sample like 15 million lighting zones simultaneously, so they could check to make sure the lighting is rendering properly in all of the locations without it taking actual months.
Pretty cool.
It's like there are good things you can do with your development budget.
yeah. But like I don't the part of this that Ben you were just speaking to that kind of that just rings so hollow to me is it, and this was also with Cyberpunk in my opinion, is like, don't tell me you didn't try and play this on like a mid to lower tier quality system to see how it worked. Like,
Don't tell me you didn't try to play this on console and realize that people
right,
T-pose
like,
cars they're driving.
right, exactly. It's just like it's so disingenuous to act like, yeah, you didn't know this game is unplayable on like the average PC. That's just not. There's no believability to that statement.
I just enjoy, because I've been this way for years now, where I miss the old days where games couldn't be patched, no internet connection to your console. What's on disc is what you play. Because that was the point. Either the game comes out good and it's good, or it comes out bad and it's bad. No other choices there. You need to release a finished product. And I want to get back to that point where, you play on day one and the game is good. Not having to sit there go, oh well,
Asking
if
a
I
lot.
wait 2 weeks for the second week patch, it'll run an acceptable frame rate, and then if I wait a month after that, they'll patch it so that the NPCs are more expressive and interactive. Then if I wait 2 more months after that, they'll add the side quests that they couldn't finish.
Yeah, all these stories here are examples of significant issues with the industry in their kind of the front loading aspect of the industry, but then it's like the what happens downstream, what are the ultimate effects, and it is the bit of we as a consumer are getting a diminished product, but then also that then results in poor sales and poor
People getting
growth,
laid
which things
off.
that Andrew was talking about, and that results in studio closures, dissolutions, team breakups, or layoffs. And the story of the last, basically we're getting up to 2 full years now of just constant layoffs.
2 full
It,
years. It's been like 4 fucking years of this shit, essentially.
of it being in the public spotlight, it's really been the past 2 years. I mean, like because it's really that's been like the real tail end of the pandemic and the reckoning with the growth of industry jobs that took place through the pandemic when basically money was free and all that. But yeah, I have just a slight collection of some recent updates on some of those things, and it's not exhaustive. Like there's there were some layoffs at Riot Games a couple weeks ago, some smaller
I mean, what do they
studios.
make other than League of Legends? Let's start that discussion.
Yeah, so there are other ones there, but then the ones that I wanted to bring up were Netflix shutting down its AAA game studio Team Blue, the one that
Didn't they
was.
never release a game
Oh
either?
yeah, no, it was they haven't done shit. But it was comprised of like some real fucking talent there. There was like ex Halo, Overwatch, God of War devs, like the Sony Santa Monica head of art direction, was part of this team, and they all left. That was kind of tucked
See,
into
their
this thing is
mistake
that.
was they didn't hire the Overwatch 3D riggers who created the system that ended up like revolutionizing 3D animated porn when
Yeah,
Overwatch came
yeah, yeah,
out.
yeah. The so these was tucked into this report though is that like these three like big names that were leading the studio, like the big creative heads, that they basically had kind of left quietly beforehand, like that they were gone. They saw the writing on the wall and fucked off and did other things where.
You should
I
always
mean,
be worried if you're working at a company and the people high enough up to know things start to leave. That should be a warning sign
yeah, oh
to
no.
anyone who works under them, speaking
Mhm.
from experience.
Yeah, this a problem. They've in an earnings call earlier this year, Netflix has said that they've got more than 80 games in development at the time, but
Mhm.
like I don't know what of those we've
Okay.
actually
MOBA. That's
they I mean,
that's what they've said. They aren't abandoning gaming. They're continuing with their like streaming mobile type of games. It's just the AAA gaming that is no longer a factor
Oh
in
Nice.
their
boy,
strategy.
another portal to play mobile games through. I needed another one of those.
I definitely want to play these games with my fucking shitty TV remote. Like that's
Mhm.
that's absolutely
Well, the thing is, they're
what I
really
want to
pushing
do.
for it on your phone, not your TV, because they're banking on the
Right,
fact that
right, right,
most
right.
people watch Netflix on their phone now, and then that connects into
That's
you.
wild to
You
me.
get a list of apps you can access, like Cut the Rope, that you
But
could
that I
then
mean,
play
Yeah.
for
no, right.
free.
That is where most people who are, and there aren't that many that are playing their games because basically you can think of the Netflix gaming as like the Apple Arcade thing. It's like it's a place to house these different mobile games.
Theoretical premium versions of freeware games you can get on the Google Play Store.
Yeah, so that was
Pretty much.
one. That was one. There's another that Don't Nod is like so this is like not even just affecting AAA development, right? That Don't Nod is one of your kind of bigger double A um
The
dev
increasingly
teams.
dying space of games.
Yeah, and so they are announcing some layoffs up to 69 employees, not nice. Are set to lose their jobs after poor performance of some of their recent games, such as, and this one I wasn't surprised at because it got like just decent but middle of the road reviews of Banishers Ghost of New Eden, which was a game that I was interested in but like ultimately didn't purchase because it seemed like the story was really interesting and really good. The characters were good, but this the moment to moment gameplay was just a slog. So it's like, no, I'm going to pass on that. And then the one that surprised me in this report was the poor performance of Jusant, their kind of cool little climbing sim game that like was critically lauded. People who played Jusant loved it. It was like really it had like this
Well,
kind of
therein lies your
bare bones
issue. It's the
narrative, but
people who played.
right. Yeah, it's that not enough people are playing these things, obviously. But like I only ever heard good things about Jusant, right? I heard pretty middling things on Vanishers, so that one didn't surprise me. But yeah, like that they're what was there? They had like an 11% year over year decline in revenue, and so it's not just AAA but AA as well, and we're seeing more and more layoffs. But the one that we can, I think maybe spend a little more time on is the dissolving of the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown team. This one isn't really about layoffs, as far as I know. They haven't been laid
No
off.
one
They've
lost any jobs. They were just scattered to different projects.
that they've
Reallocated.
that they have basically nixed any ideas for a sequel and have moved the individuals onto other teams. Like a lot of them have like gone to now, and this is again like kind of trend chasing, right? Is that rather than pursuing, I mean, yes, this is a staple IP for them. This was a new, more adventurous, risk taking
It was a more
develop.
modern take on the
Yeah,
original 2D Metroidvania style.
but it's a development of it's trying something new, even with a standing IP. But basically, most of these people have now been moved to exploring a Rayman remake. Not even an exploration, so they're just, it's like, okay, let's go. We're exploring, yeah, a Rayman remake. Let's jump on the nostalgia train rather than trying to commit to something new and trying to uh, market it
I'll be
and
the one to
sell it
say it.
well.
Rayman has always been mid.
I've
Yeah,
never played.
never played either. But yeah, this Prince of Persia game was just like
Critically
the
acclaimed.
yeah, and the downfall of it was chasing other types of trends in terms of its selling and its marketing. Like they tried to do this on their own subscription. It was a subscription it was the death of script because of subscription service. You could only basically get this through their fucking
Ubisoft
the
Connect.
Ubisoft Connect. That's the only way you could get it, like on PC. Maybe it was on Epic too, but that doesn't fucking count.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that doesn't fucking count. But the fact that this wasn't on Steam just completely neuters any possibility of it
Well, especially
succeeding
when you look at
on
how
the
quickly
platform.
they've reverted that, where Ubisoft is now like, yeah, all of it's going back on Steam. Fuck it. We miss you. We're sorry. I saw a funny little animation where it was like Gabe sitting on his throne and Ubisoft capitulating to
Yeah,
him,
yeah. The
and him
fucking
telling them
account.
that they can come back, but they have
What's
to
the
wear the
French
dunce cap
version?
along
Wait,
with all the other.
what's a French version of a kowtow? I honestly don't know. But yeah, they really shot themselves in the dick here. This was a game that was, critically lauded.
The crazy part was this game had a demo too. This had a free demo that I remember people being like, "Wow, this game's really cool. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
buy
people hated
this."
the marketing. People were turned off immediately from like the first trailer because it was like they did stupid shit, like show us some like completely anachronistic or just vibe killing, like they chose hip hop music to do it. It's because, oh look, he's basically we've got a black character who's got dreadlocks. We've got to play hip hop music during this trailer that's set in fucking ancient Persia. It's just like, yeah,
Perfect.
these weird, again, chasing trends that just proving that they have no idea what they're doing. They're just trying to latch on to whatever they think is going to work rather than having any coherent actual strategy.
There was a
And
pretty heavy marketing push for this too. I remember a shitload of ads for this game on Reddit, YouTube. When I was watching sport like basketball
Yeah,
in the
it was on for
there was lots
basketball
of
a lot.
commercials for it on basketball,
it
which I
was
mean
just like
maybe they're
damage
doing some
control.
demographic targeting there.
It was just like damage control because of that initial announcement was not good, and people did not
It had the
like it.
Transformers 1 thing where the first trailer was so fucking bad that no one went to see the movie that turned out to be okay.
So this one is sad, even though, well, so here's this is a slight digression, but it was like somebody like made a post, or maybe it was a blog or something, that was like, people have talked about all the problems with its marketing, with its rollout, where it was sold, all these things that are valid, but people didn't really talk about like its genre, the issue of genre, where they like made an interesting point where how Metroid Dread became like one of the highest selling games in the franchise with like a couple
Metroid Dread
million.
fucks, by the way.
It is, but like, it does fuck. But it was like something like 3 million sales, and it's like that's fucking nothing. Like so it's just showing that like that Metroidvania are gonna be a bit of a niche sell, anyways. Basically, unless it's Hollow Knight 2, the
Which will never come out.
which is
All
never
of you who
coming
are
out.
praying
Yeah.
for it,
Yeah,
just
no.
give up. Give up all hope.
Yeah, Team Cherry is just a fucking cardboard cutout at this point. It's just that was an interesting thing to me because I know that's why I didn't get it. It's just like, I
Yeah,
don't
you don't like
connect.
Metroidvanias.
I don't connect very well with Metroidvania. Well, like the movement, the platforming, the combat looked cool to me. It's just the game design of Metroidvania is just off-putting to me. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna skip it. I wish the team well. I hope that this encourages more unique spins on Prince of Persia. Of course, that also then has led to the Rogue Prince of Persia, the roguelike one that's in early access that also was released basically around the same time and probably cannibalized some sales. Another one that I'm not probably going to try out because I don't like roguelikes either. So
Yeah.
it's just like that's kind of unfortunate. But like
It's one of
I
those. There's nothing wrong with chasing a niche market as long as your
scoped
expectations and sales targets
as you're
are
scoped,
within that
yeah,
realm.
yeah. If you're scoped appropriately, right?
You can't pull a Square Enix and be like, this game is going to sell 20 million units in its first day, or else I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah, that's totally a totally fair point. But it's like, yeah, like this game is it's sad for me to see because this was like from all accounts like the best Ubisoft game in basically a generation and was actually kind of taking risks and doing
I mean, it
something
was very
new.
similar to the Hi-Fi Rush situation where Tango Gameworks makes a good short, rhythm game, and then a couple months later, or it was about a year, right? About
It
a
was a
year
year.
when
It was
Tango
a year.
Gameworks got shut down, and then not shut down because it got sold to a company who was like, "We'll keep you alive, but you're not going to work on the things you were going to work on."
I mean, they're just working on more Hi-Fi Rush. Um, Folks, stay tuned. Next week,
I was dropping that as a
yeah,
hint.
next week we will be talking about Hi-Fi Rush as our game choice for November. I'm excited to talk about that one. I am probably going to go back
We're gonna
and
have
at
to
least
release the
watch some stuff
podcast as a
well.
video format, and I'm just gonna be posing the whole time.
Yeah, just JoJo posing. Yeah, so that's actually no, that's not it for me. The last one where we can end on a funny note is a similar story in the terms of, again, industry in turmoil, game developers, publishers struggling, trying to cut down on employees. Where that's difficult is in Japan because of strict Japanese labor laws that just like, you basically can't fire people with
They put you in the quit box.
yeah, so what they do instead is they put you in the expulsion chamber where you have to out of shame they I mean it works in Japan because of the
The
kind
work
of
culture.
the really kind of perverted work culture there where they will feel shame over not doing anything by being put into a blank room with a fidget toy to
The irony of how poorly that would
in
work
hopes
in
they
America,
quit.
where you would be like,
Yeah.
you're gonna get paid still, but you have to
Yeah.
sit in this room and do nothing all day.
Yeah,
Sounds
I'm
like
Oh, I
begging.
essentially do that already because all I do is shoot out 4 emails a day.
I'm begging to be ostracized and paid for it.
let's do it. Let's do it. Let's adopt this everywhere. It was just so funny because, like, yeah, like well, actually, that
Make
what
your
sucks
employee
about it
badge
is,
when you scan the door, like make the PA system laugh at you as you walk through.
I mean, but here's a
It does
here's
the shame,
but but
shame.
but here's like a decent part of it, right? It's like it like gives you a bit of a safety net while you're trying to go search for another job. It's like, yeah, like I'm gonna bring my laptop and I'm gonna do job searches while you're paying me to do that, and
In other companies, I've been doing this for years.
yeah, yeah.
You
So
think that the last couple months that I'm working there before I leave aren't me looking at Indeed.com?
most visited website on my company computer. But this was just so funny. Like, because that was just the reaction, is just Americans being like, I volunteer as tribute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put me in the box.
Please.
You know, I'm willing to make the sacrifice. I already, like, joke's on you. I already have no shame, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They put them in the box and they have to record K-pop dance TikToks until the end of the day. That would get them actually to quit.
Mischievous princess. Yada yada.
I proudly enter the box.
It's time to go to bed, everybody. Yeah, and I think that'll do it for today, folks. Like we just said, you can look forward to our discussion of Hi-Fi Rush next week. Till then, you can support us by following at twitch.tv/campingcomrades, the YouTube, all that jazz. Check out the Patreon for weekly blog posts. I recently put one up on the whole Space Marine
A good one.
update nerf fiasco, I guess, so you could say at first. That seems to have been pretty well managed by Saber.
I mean, if you go looked at the Steam page and then pulled up the review graph, the negative review spike when the update came out was pretty alarming.
Yeah, I don't know if the review bombing stopped or if we're reversed or not. People were like, you know, make sure
Love bombing time.
Yeah, yes. Okay, folks, that's it for us. Thank you for listening. Hope you had a good October. Have a good Halloween. Yeah, this will be coming out just before Halloween, so stay safe out there.
Bye.
Yeah, make sure you don't eat razor blades in your candy.
Yep.
Make sure you inspect every candy wrapper to make sure it's not secret THC candy that people are giving out for free to get your kids addicted to weed.
Dude,
No Fent.
I only look for the Fent candy.
Yeah, give me the Fent Snickers.
Trying to have that Fent lean with a sugar high.
Folks, we'll talk to you next time. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.